What's up, everyone? Yes, it is I, your host, Natalie Morrison, and you might be thinking, wasn't this called Swim Masters? Well, yes, it was, and you're definitely in the right place. We decided that we wanted to give the podcast a bit of a makeover, and we're so proud to introduce to you Revoicing the Future, a Women of NAM podcast. Don't worry, it's still the same content, still the same hosts. We just wanted to take this to the next level. And we're excited that you're joining us on this fantastic journey. The episode that you're currently listening to was recorded before the name change. And I just wanted to let you know that you are in the right spot. So keep on listening. Be sure to subscribe and stay tuned for all new episodes of Revoicing the Future, a Women of NAM podcast, coming soon. Welcome to Swim Masters, a podcast dedicated to help connect, grow, and support women in the music products industry. I am your host, Natalie Morrison. The Smart Women in Music Fund was established in 2018 by Robin Walenta, Dee Dee Hyde, and Crystal Morris to expand diversity, inclusion, and support for women in the music products space. Twice a month, I will sit down and host virtual conversations with various women across our industry to help foster mentorship and growth. Now, without further ado, let's dive in. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Swim Masters. I'm your host, Natalie Morrison. Thank you for tuning in, as always. Happy spring. It is April. The sun is shining. The flowers are blooming. The days are longer. The weather is warmer. I could go on and on and on about how excited I am that it is spring. I'm from the East Coast, so if you are not particularly familiar, this winter we got many a snowstorm, and I'm over it. I'm ready to not wear sweaters and jackets and hats and gloves, and I'm just excited to enjoy the outdoors and the longer sunny days. Don't get me wrong, I do love the snow, the first snow, especially over the holiday season. It is very magical, but after that, I'm done. Like next season, bring on the warmth, etc., etc. Anywho, today's episode is an exciting one. I got the chance to walk down memory lane a little bit. I sat down and spoke with Miranda Altman, who is the Senior Director of Program Operations at Little Kids Rock. And I met Miranda 6 years ago when I had the unique opportunity to intern with Little Kids Rock. So I do have a soft spot in my heart for the organization and all the work that they do. And I'm excited for everyone else to hear about Little Kids Rock's mission and the work that Miranda does and her journey into the industry. I think this episode is going to resonate with a lot of people, and I'm just excited for you all to hear it. So I'm done chatting for now, and I will see ya on the flip side. Enjoy. Hi, Miranda. Thank you so much for joining Swim Masters. So excited to have you on the podcast.
Hi, Natalie. I'm so excited to be here today.
So I wanted to start with your journey into the music industry. Have you always wanted to work in music? If so, or if not, where did you start and where are you now?
So I've taken not the traditional path and into the music industry, that's for sure. I actually graduated college with a degree in geography. That's actually a major. No idea what I wanted to do. Found myself working in finance on Wall Street. For a year or two after graduation, everyone asked me what I did, and I can't even explain it because it was the wrong fit. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just knew I wanted to go in the direction of whatever was opposite from that. So I was actually on Craigslist, and this was back in 2009 when it was a standard thing for small companies to post jobs on Craigslist. And I saw this posting. Yeah, I don't think that happens today. I'm not sure. I haven't been on Craigslist in a while, but there was this posting for this little organization called Little Kids Rock, and I looked at it and I said, "Well, this is opposite enough from what I'm doing now." So applied and was hired because they needed someone with data experience, which I had a little bit of with my work in finance. But very quickly, I came into this, or it was a 4-person operation that was trying to do very big things, and they didn't really need someone with data experience. They needed just someone to do a little bit of everything. So rolled up my sleeves and I jumped in. um, and I quickly found myself involved in teacher customer service, visiting classrooms, working with instrument partners, mass comms, event, everything. So that was the start. um, I've always been a huge music lover and consumer, but growing up, I never really had the opportunity to learn to how to be a music maker in a way that engaged me. But when I got into this role, I realized pretty quickly that I needed to learn how to connect with not only our music educator network, but also um, our music product industry partners. And I didn't have a background in the field, so I couldn't really walk the walk. So I jumped into taking guitar lessons and learning how to play. And in the decade since, I can't imagine my life not being a music maker, not being a player. It's just has brought me so much joy and opportunities to connect with others. It's really defined who I am today.
I love that. You were talking before, just you, first of all, you found a job that was completely opposite of what you were doing, and that's kind of how you based it. But then being involved in the job, it opened a door for you that I guess you would have never known or never thought that you would be doing.
Yeah, if you had, on my college graduation day, if you had said, I would be working in the music industry, working with educators, playing guitar, I would not in a million years believed anyone that would tell me that. Like, I just completely unexpected turn.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So you've been with Little Kids Rock for over 12 years. I guess before we dive into how your role has changed over the course of your tenure, let's start with what exactly does Little Kids Rock do?
So Little Kids Rock. So we're a nonprofit, and our mission is to transform lives by restoring, expanding, and innovating music education in our schools, our public schools. And so we do this by what we call modern band. So it's a kind of new school music programming that teaches kids to perform, improvise, compose using the popular styles that they know and love: rock, hip hop, and our programming features guitar, bass, keyboards, technology. And so what we do is we partner with school districts, and we go in and we train their educators how to run this programming in their music classes. And we sometimes provide instruments, we provide curriculum, and most of all, a community of like-minded educators from all over the country that are trying to do the same thing. And it's really grown into this. It's not just about giving instruments to underfunded schools. It's an educational movement.
I love Little Kids Rock. I'm a little biased when I say that, but
Yes. So Natalie was a former Natalie and I met when she was a former intern at our organization. I think it was I was looking today. I think it was maybe 2015 or so.
yes,
About.
yes, it's 6 years ago. Wow.
It seems like a lifetime. It seems like a lifetime.
I know.
And
I still keep in touch. Like, I mean, I see Dave all the time. And I see you all the time. Brian likes to push my buttons whenever he sees me, but that's Brian. And then I still talk to Keith, who was my boss at the time.
Well, I think
So
that kind of what I'm so passionate about this movement is everyone who it touches, whether you're a former employee or a donor or a district arts admin, it's just like you become this family. It's a community.
yeah,
It's everyone's just so passionate that even when people move on to different roles and different paths, like this is all still connecting us. This
yeah.
passion for music education.
And what you guys do is it's so unique and different. Anyway, so since you've been with Little Kids Rock for over 12 years, how has your role over the course of your tenure changed?
So when I joined in 2009, I still can't believe it was 12 years ago. And like, in a way, it feels like yesterday. We were reaching maybe 30,000 students. We had about 250 teachers participating. I knew every teacher by name. And then fast forward a decade plus some, and we have almost 3,000 educators in our network, and we're reaching over 500,000 kids every year.
Wow.
Yeah, it is mind blowing sometimes. We're in over 500 school districts, and but more than that, I think we've expanded our mission. Like, we're not just about little kids. We're not just about rock. We're putting a focus now on a lot of higher ed initiatives, training the educators of tomorrow. And we're doing all music that's culturally relevant, whether that's EDM, mariachi. Um, so yeah, little kids rock is not little kids. It's not just rock. It's, but for me, my job, it's less hands-on than it used to be. I really do miss working directly with teachers, being in the middle of everything, but I have a really great team. And I'm managing our budget, I'm setting strategy, but one part of my job that I really enjoy and has remained a constant over the past 10 years has been working with the music product industry. Um, Connecting our educators with what they need to offer this program and their schools. And, every, we just keep growing with that. And for the past 3 years or so, we've partnered with Sweetwater, which is an incredible company to work with. And we've really been able to exponentially grow our impact. I think over the past 10 years, we've actually been able to place more than 100,000 instruments into schools through our partnerships.
Oh, that's incredible.
It's a lot of guitars. I actually have a picture from, I don't know, maybe 2010 from your former boss Keith, who's still with the org. It's from some press event in Florida where we made a guitar pyramid with like 500 guitars for a PR thing, and it's just like that. It's just like that's like just a little sliver of all the instruments, but it felt like a lot of guitars at the time.
I know. I wonder what that would look like if you spaced out 100,000 guitars. I wonder what that would equate to.
Well, I am taking a math class right now with my MBA program I'm in, so I could probably figure that out if you really wanted to.
That was a rhetorical question, but it's like interesting.
Yeah.
It's so interesting because when sometimes you see those things where they're like X amount of stuff equals like the perimeter of Manhattan or something like wild like that. But it just shows how much the organization has grown so quickly over
Definitely.
12 years or whatnot. So
100%.
So, what are some of the main challenges facing students learning music today?
I think one of the biggest challenges is achieving equity, um, providing access for all students to have that opportunity to engage in music. That's in a way that's meaningful and relevant to them. Music education in this country has not only been focused around traditional Western European music, but it also hasn't evolved very much over the past 50 or 100 years. So, really, I think there's two barriers for access. And the first is not being in a school district with the funding to offer consistent programming, or they're offering program, the accessing point is so high, such as you have to rent out an orchestra instrument for the entire school year. A lot of kids, that's not a reality. But I think so. That's one barrier. But I think the second is even when there's programming being offered consistently, it's often not culturally responsive to the student. So the top five genres that Americans consume right now, if you're looking at digital music sales, are rap, rock, pop, R&B, and Latin. That's over 70% of the music market. All of these genres have roots in Black and Brown communities. But if you look at what's being taught in schools, it's overwhelmingly classical, folk, world, and children's music, which when you combine those in terms of music sales, that's less than 2%. So there's a huge disconnect. So if what's being taught is not what the kids are listening to at home, sharing with their friends, they're less inclined to be engaged and pursue an opportunity to learn an instrument. So even if they have the access, like they're not interested in doing it.
It's such a good point, though, because you want kids to want to be interested in every when a kid is in school, like you want them to be interested in like various subjects, and giving them something to relate to, or which I think is also why music is so powerful and music education is so powerful, is because of it. It's allowing kids to be able to relate back and say, oh, I can learn how to play my favorite song or whatnot. So it's so important to give that opportunity for kids. I'm not saying that those other genres aren't important, because they are, but it shouldn't be narrowly focused.
Exactly. Like there is the thing about music is there's a place for every genre. There's a place for every instrument. And I think a lot of times there's a perception that if you bring modern band programming into a school, then it's going to pull away from orchestra, concert band. And what we see is that's not the case at all. It's actually, you bring modern band to school, you have more kids. You have a group of kids that are excited about music, that are engaged, that now have a chance to play, that might not have had that before, and all of a sudden, the demand for being in jazz band or orchestra is higher, because you have that many more kids who now appreciate music, understand, and are excited.
Yeah, I love it. So, speaking of teaching students and specifically music, obviously, the pandemic has drastically shifted how music is taught to students. And for a lot of people, it took a little bit to adjust because the world shut down pretty quickly. So, how has the pandemic shifted how the Little Kids Rock program teaches music to students?
Well, when the pandemic hit, like most other industries, Little Kids Rock, our entire mission had to suddenly pivot to a digital forward one. Before COVID-19, our focus has always been on providing in person, hands on, interactive professional development, um, and building this community through events and performance opportunities for students. Obviously, that all went out the window. So now we have all these students at home, many without access to instruments. So we've been really relying heavily on digital tools such as Soundtrap, which is a platform. It's a platform that allows students to compose and record original songs collaboratively. We quickly shifted to make curricular videos for teachers daily, and then ultimately refocus to have free PDs offered for anyone, any teacher in the country, whether they're little kids rock teachers or anybody in the country, with new content specifically geared towards the pandemic. And um, that looks like body drumming, choreography, vocals, creating drum sets from items in your home, anything to keep music making happening in a distance environment.
Mm,
And
I love that.
yeah, most teachers, music teachers, have been forced into this role of being constant innovators through all of this. And um, in addition to their previous jobs of teaching music, like they now have this, and it's been very demanding for everybody.
Yeah, and it's good that you're offering ways just to make it easier for them to get through each week or each day because people have to take it day by
and,
day.
and that's it. And at our core, we've always been an organization that serves teachers. So we're serving teachers now in conditions that no one ever imagined.
Yeah.
And it hasn't been easy and it hasn't been perfect, but we're here, and we've had this. We've been relying a lot more on crowdsourcing, um, having educators helping educators.
Mm,
What's connecting teachers with what's working for them on this day, um, with others. So to try to kind of form this like hive mind. We're all in this together.
yeah, it's really important. So, what have you learned over the years that continues to guide you through your day to day at work?
Um, well, I think really that it's really important to find the parts of your job that sustain your energy and passion, especially a nonprofit. And especially working for the same company for 12 years, which I know is unusual for us millennials. And especially kind of as I've moved up in my career and I'm less involved in a lot of the hands-on exciting things, that I've had to really figure out, like, what's my passion in this job. And for me, it's empowering girls and women to do things, play instruments that traditionally have been very male dominated. Um, and when it comes down to it, modern band does so much, but one specific thing is it provides girls with more opportunities to learn how to play guitar.
Yeah.
Um, and if you look at decades ago, only 5% of consumers that were purchasing guitars were female, and today it's 50%. Just
Yeah. Especially in the last year too. Majority of the guitar boom that we've seen has come from females as well.
100%. But now I think, like, now we have the numbers, but I think the next step is making sure that they're visible, because still I feel like a lot of the advertising and sponsorships you see is still more male dominated. um, so it's now we have the numbers, we have the access for girls, but now it's increasing that visibility. And
Right.
for me, for engaging with that person, like, little personal part of our mission, like, I really had to step outside my own comfort zone. um, I had a pivotal moment maybe 6 or 7 years ago at our annual teacher conference, the Modern Band Summit. um, and it's our annual conference that we have in Colorado every year, where we have hundreds of educators from around the country come for 4 days of community building and professional development. And the summit's always been my baby and my passion project, but I'm logistics. um, I'm behind the scenes. um, but a few years ago, our director of teaching and learning, Scott Burstein, approached me and he said, "Why don't you present a breakout session?" And my first instinct was, "No, I'm way too busy for that." And then my second instinct though was, "No, I'm not good enough for that. I don't belong there." Um, but he didn't really let up, and he encouraged me, and finally I was like, "Okay, fine, I'll run a session." Um, So we get to the workshop, and it's a room full of educators, music teachers with years of formal training, and I was just so nervous. I'm definitely an introvert by nature. I've never really been a public speaker. Um, I was 6 months pregnant, awkwardly trying to like fit my Telecaster electric guitar over my huge belly. And I got through it, but I was sure I'd blown it. I was convinced that everyone could see like what a fraud I was, that I wasn't a real musician. Well, why was I trying to teach? Like I'm supposed to be just, running staff calendars. Like, well, why was I up there? So I had all these insecurities like while doing it. But at the end of the session, several women came up to me, older, probably mid late 60s, and they said it was the best session that they've attended so far at the conference. And one was crying, and she said she never thought she could take a solo on the guitar, and now she could, and she could jam with the guys. And it was in that moment that I realized my value was not to be the most experienced or aggressive in the room, showing that so many other showing others that teaching people in a way that's accessible, meeting them where they're at. And it's something I think that can be applied like beyond playing guitar. It could be really to anything in the business world. Like you don't have to be the aggressive expert in the room. There are lots of ways to contribute and make people feel valued and heard and to teach.
Yeah. I love that though, because I wasn't there obviously, but it almost seems as if they really related to you. Like you had all of these insecurities of not being good enough or not being the right person to teach this course, but it almost seems like they were able to relate with you because they might not have necessarily been a guitar teacher, because a lot of these teachers haven't really picked up guitar before. So
Yeah, and I think there's this myth around playing electric guitar and taking soloing that it's only supposed to be for experts or the shredders, and that's not the case.
I love that.
So, and I know I've gotten off on a little tangent, but as this sunk into me, a memory came back from when I was in the sixth grade. And when I was in the sixth grade, at the end of the school year, our teacher said every kid in the class was going to get an award. Growing up, I never really excelled in anything. I was a C+ student, picked last in gym class, all that. I'm sure a lot of us can relate to that feeling. So I was really excited about the idea, oh my gosh, like I'm going to be able to experience what recognition feels like. So they're doing their awards, and it comes to be my turn, and the award I received was for most shy.
What?
Yeah. Pretty BS. Even at 11 years old, I was like, wait a minute, my greatest attribute is not having a voice. And I was crushed at the time. And honestly, I completely repressed that memory until that day. When I found myself 6 months pregnant, running a lead guitar workshop for this huge audience and making a difference. And that kind of lit a fire in me that I don't want any girl to ever feel like her best asset is not having a voice. And that's a lot of things to try to change at once. But I know with my role now, anytime I have the opportunity to do something, I've done that workshop every year since. And I try to put myself out there, even though it's not part of my job role. My job role is approving expense reports and setting strategy. But whenever I get a chance to participate in filming a video or playing at an event, I do it. And every time I still have that nagging feeling I'm not qualified, but I do it because representation matters and it's so important. And that keeps me engaged. It keeps me passionate about my job, even when I'm sitting there approving someone's 6 months of expense reports in an Excel spreadsheet.
But this story is I think so many people are going to relate to this story. I relate to the story. Everyone knows that when you first meet me, I'm quiet, I'm shy, I keep to myself, I don't say much, and I just sit there. But once you get to know me, like I become a very bubbly, like extroverted person, but I guess the facade is the introvert. But hearing other people talk about putting themselves putting themselves out there and taking those risks and getting out of your comfort zone, it helps others, I think, to see that they too can do that.
Yeah, I'm really, I'm just so happy, and I feel so privileged to be a part of that. And I know you and many of our listeners and the women in the swim network have the experience being at NAM and being the only woman in the room. And like I used to be really self conscious about that, like thinking like, oh my gosh, I got to step it up, and I got to communicate and be the same way. But no, like sometimes there are a lot of different ways to lead. Oftentimes, I've felt like I couldn't take on something or I couldn't do it, but the beautiful thing is your capacity just keeps expanding. It expands as you grow.
Yeah. Last question. What advice do you have for women looking to move up in the industry?
So I think, and I know this has become a buzzword recently, but I think it's so true. Have a growth oriented mindset. Um, I'm someone, nothing has really ever come natural to me. So I guess I'm used to just feeling uncomfortable, but it's been, which I used to think was, like I used to think it was a challenge to overcome, and I used to be frustrated by that. But now I realize it's actually really been such a big service to me. Like get used to feeling uncomfortable, because when you feel uncomfortable, that's when the growth happens. So I always try to keep that in mind. Like when it's just say yes to everything. You're not qualified. You feel like you can't do it. Say yes, it's
Mm.
uncomfortable, and but that's how you push yourself. Um, and then really like it makes you open to pivoting. I try not to be afraid of pivoting. I had this big trip to Europe planned last spring, April 2020, and it was a really big deal for me. It was my first real vacation since my divorce 3 years earlier. All my closest friends, we finally got our schedules aligned, and obviously it was canceled because global pandemic. And it seems silly now to be disappointed about that with everything else that's happened, but at the time I was bummed out. But I had been toying with the idea of getting my MBA for years, and coincidentally, the program I had been debating about, their next term was starting the very day that my flight was supposed to be. So my colleague and
Mm.
I were like, you know what? Can't go anywhere. Let's get our MBAs. And I'm going to be graduating. Yeah, I'm going to be graduating this December. Not in geography, but with my MBA in music business. And at first I had just wanted it just to put something on my resume, but honestly I've learned so much and have grown so much during this year in lockdown that I'm just so thankful for that. And you think and what I've realized with that, because it's like, oh, I have this full-time job that's demanding, I'm a single parent, like can I do this? But what you realize is like your capacity grows with you, your capacity expands as you grow.
Mm.
So I try to keep that in mind, and it's really helped me a lot.
Oh, that's amazing. Congratulations on your almost, I mean,
Thank you. Thank you.
it's not the end of it. It's still, we're still in the beginning of the year, but still, like, that's so exciting that you're going to graduate in December. And
Thank you. I guess my advice to people just starting their career, and even in their midpoint like I am, like just never get comfortable. Never get comfortable.
someone told me recently um, that if you're comfortable, you're doing it wrong.
Mm. You know, I can totally. It took me a long time to realize that, because I always thought if you're uncomfortable, you're not qualified. But that it's the opposite. If you're comfortable, you're doing it wrong. I love that. I feel like earlier in my career, I used to, whenever I hit obstacles, I used to kind of cave in more, but now I see everything as an opportunity to pivot and grow.
Yeah. Something about being uncomfortable is it keeps you on your toes. And it can be very unsettling to feel uncomfortable. But yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot and it resonates a lot with me. It also shows that you're passionate and you care about the work that you're doing if you're uncomfortable, I guess. If that makes sense. I don't know if I'm making any sense.
No, no, you know what? No, it does. And I actually had a conversation this morning with my best girlfriend who works in the defense industry, like another male dominated industry, very different than music, but still she has a lot of the same challenges. And, she said to me, she's like, if you're meeting all your goals quickly, if you're not setting big enough goals,
Yeah,
if you're not uncomfortable, if you're not facing challenges, like your goals just aren't big enough.
it's very true
Yeah,
and important
yeah,
advice to hear every so
I think
often
so.
because it's not something you think about.
No, and honestly, for me, it's having. I have to hear that like a lot to like have it really sink in. Like you can hear something and be like, oh, yeah, that sounds nice, but to actually believe it in your core, it takes a lot of sinking in.
Well, Miranda, thank you so much for joining the podcast. I had a blast and I think that people are going to really relate to our conversation. So thank you for your words and your time.
Thank you so much. I feel so privileged to be able to share today, and I hope we can see each other in person soon.
Yes.
Hopefully, there's an in-person NAM show coming up in what is it, 10 months, 9 months? Fingers crossed.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks again, Miranda.
Thanks, Natalie.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Swim Masters. Don't forget to follow us on social media, including Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn to stay up to date on all new things swim. We'd love it if you could share and leave us a review. If you'd like to learn more, please visit us at smartwomeninmusic.org. This episode was co-produced and edited by Stephanie Lamond, Natalie Morrison, and Julia Olsen. See you next time.